From the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, this is a special edition of Inside Government with Cedric Peterson.
To our audience here at home and around the world, welcome. You're now Inside Government. In this edition of the program, we continue because the countdown is on for CARIFESTA 2025, the Caribbean's premier festival of arts and culture happening in Barbados from August 22nd to August 31st. This event unites our region in a celebration of creativity, heritage, and identity. Here at home, the Ministry of Culture, Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport through the Department of Culture is leading the initiative, ensuring that St. Martin's vibrant artistic talent is showcased on the regional stage. Today, we focus on the visual arts and fashion with three exceptional members of our delegation: visual artist Lisandro Suril, poet and visual artist Charisse Piper, and fashion designer Zilla Duzan Hazel. Folks, it's great to have you in the program. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, first of all, congratulations on this journey that you're embarking on within the culture of arts and fashion that's going to be taking place in Barbados. I want to get right into it since we don't have too much time, and this question is for all three of you. What does it mean to each of you to represent St. Martin at CARIFESTA 2025? Charisse, let me start with you.
Well, it's an exciting opportunity, one definitely that I'm happy to have. I feel like often, not that there aren't, well, we have a wide and vast community of artists on St. Martin, but it's usually everyone is working in a little silo. So it's great to be at an event where it's just all about art, and then you're connecting with Caribbean artists and just seeing what is going on in the Caribbean and what other artists are creating. And it's always inspirational and very exciting to be around that. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to not only go and be in that environment, but also to represent St. Martin and what we have to offer.
Absolutely. Zilla.
Yes, for me, we are the representation of our island to people that we meet. So whenever I get the opportunity to share what I do, who I am, where I come from, I do it with pride. I do it with everything that is inside of me. So for me doing this, it's, how should I say, I'm wearing my flag on my back, waving it, and proud to be a St. Martiner and proud to represent my island and show them the excellence of our creativity here on the island.
Indeed. And Lisandro.
Yes, for me, it's an amazing opportunity to participate in this cultural exchange and dialogue. It's something, at least from my own perspective and artistic practice, that you don't really get an opportunity like this every day. In my own practice, I'm often within the Dutch kingdom structure that we're in, we're often pulled to maybe more European or North American contexts. And this is an amazing way to engage with what the region is doing. And I think that's a very, very, very special thing.
I believe so. As a matter of fact, that probes the question of how do you deal with that, what I would describe as a foreign distraction, because we're constantly bombarded with these types of cultures, European and American. So how do you manage not being distracted and keep focused on your culture when it comes to the expression in the arts?
So for me as an artist, it would more come from, my focus would be on the making. So to kind of like include that decolonial perspective on the art practice, on the art research practice. It is not every day that opportunities like CARIFESTA come along. So to take advantage of this, I think or to have the privilege to be invited to this, even to discuss on this level, I think, again, is quite special, because as an artist, you are not always the institution to create such events. So to hop on this amazing ride, I think is a priceless gift.
Lisandro, I want to stay with you on the next question. Your work blends realism and dreamlike imagery based on the profile that I saw online. How does this style connect to Caribbean storytelling, and what will you showcase in Barbados?
I think that the magically real is a perfect way to convey Caribbean storytelling because in Caribbean context and Caribbean storytelling, Caribbean mythologies, um, you often have we live in very often very harsh realities in how do you say this in realities and spaces that were often not imagined for us. We come from um, a history of trauma and bondage, and in many places, it has been kind of converted to a a consumer tourism paradise for um, expats or foreign investors or tourists, essentially. So in my work, I really question who has the right to imagine one's reality in Caribbean spaces. And more often than not, within the realm of Caribbean storytelling, we are doing this on a day-to-day basis. So you have in a sense that, for example, people that are like lawyers and doctors and what have you not, they might still go home at the end of the day and put salt in the four corners of their home to ward off jumbies or evil spirits. So it's like these tiny, very magical elements play a very real role in our reality. And in my work, I'm primarily a photographer and I dabble in film. And I think that this medium is perfect to convey that magic in reality because for something to be photographable or to be recorded on a media device, it has to have existed in reality. And it's kind of a way to visually manifest that magical way of thinking in a way that everybody can engage with without really talking about it. You can intuit it. And what I am showing at CARIFESTA are two short films, two experimental short films. One is Ghost Island, a documentary of Black imagination, which I made in partnership with Human Rights Watch back during COVID, or towards the end of COVID. And the second film that I'm showing is the Sea and the Eternal Dream. And that's a film that I made in cooperation with the National Maritime Museum in Amsterdam.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Charisse, how does your dual perspective as both poet and visual artist influence the way you approach your visual pieces?
Well, interestingly enough, or maybe not interesting at all, but I always used to write poetry, but it was only in maybe my junior year of college when I was like, oh, wait, but I write and I kind of want to incorporate my writing into my art. And so I started doing that and it just became a space for me to continue to grow and play. And so for me, my art is usually, I view it as storytelling. So I view it as storytelling come alive. So I incorporate many different artistic mediums. So it could be visual arts, it could be collage, it could be installation, where of course I use natural pieces because I very much like working in wheelchair with natural elements. And so I bring that all into a story that I'm trying to tell, that I'm trying to create, that I'm trying to convey. Because for me, language is art. And I don't think many people know that because, again, language is also very political and in a colonial space, who gets to use language and how do they use it and what do they say and what are the stories they're telling. And so for me, just very much the same as Lisandro, and very much like Zilla in her design, it's the bringing in what is our story, what is our narrative, and then bringing it out to the wider audience, but then inviting them as well to tell their own story. And not everyone, because language is so political, has the same grasp on language. And so it's used in a sense to often push people apart. Oh, you speak this, you speak that, you don't understand. But I try to create space where we all understand, because we're all invited to bring our own stories into the space. So it's they're both talking to each other in a way. So that's how I view it, or incorporate it.
It's a great take. I appreciate that. Zilla, fashion is often seen as wearable art. How do you incorporate elements of St. Martin's culture into your designs?
Well, very similar to Sharice, I love to incorporate elements of nature. Like, for instance, what I have on, it has pineapples, it has the leaves, right? So these are elements from our island, a fruit that we eat on a daily basis. These are elements that I put in my art that I then transfer to fabrics, and I create collections from them. So that's my take on how I incorporate my island, my culture, our lifestyle into our wearable art.
This is Inside Government. Stay tuned as we continue our conversation with Lisandro, Sharice, and Zilla. Coming up, how the Department of Culture is spearheading St. Martin's participation in CARIFESTA, and how our artists are preparing to inspire the Caribbean. Stay with us. You're Inside Government.
The Ministry of Vromi, Department of Infrastructure Management, together with the Police Department, KPSM, is making changes to traffic on a section of Canagita Street and Manzanella Stake, Phillipsburg. The Canagita Street from the intersection with Percy LaBega Street to Manzanella Stake will now be a one-way street. Inbound traffic can enter Canagita Street from Percy LaBega Street and drive straight ahead or turn left into Manzanella Stake. Outbound traffic leaving town on Canagita Street must make a right turn onto Manzanella Stake. Entry further into the Canagita Street will no longer be permitted. Outbound traffic exiting Manzanella Stake onto Walton Nisbet Road can either make a right or left-hand turn. The Ministry of Vromi, Department of Infrastructure Management, and the Police Department would like to thank the public for their attention to this change. Please follow the new traffic rules and signage and drive safely.
We gather as one, united Caribbean. We join hands in one. Big cultural.
Welcome back, everyone. If you just tuned in, you're Inside Government. And the program that we are in highlights St. Martin's cultural heritage as the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport, by way of the Department of Culture, champions our representation at CARIFESTA 2025 in Barbados. I'm joined by visual artist Lisandro, poet and visual artist Sharice, and fashion designer Zilla as we continue exploring their artistic journey and what they'll present later this month. Lisandro, let's kick off this second segment asking you the following question. What aspects of St. Martin's landscape or cultural environment inspire your work most?
I think I will relay an anecdote or a story that will best convey my answer about what inspires me. I once had an interview with the late Miss Ruby Butte, the community elder here on St. Martin, and a very profound artist. And I once asked her if she had any ghost stories. And she told me that once when she was pregnant with her daughter a long, long time ago, she heard a spirit walk in her house. And the spirit was invisible, but all she heard was, "Let's go to the picnic." And that was the whole ghost story. And then I asked her, "What does this mean? Do you have any connection or family heritage with the picnic?" She was like, no, I don't know what this means. So then I took the story, put it in my pocket and whatnot. About a week or two later, when I was researching history on St. Martin, I came upon the fact that in olden St. Martin, a picnic referred to a marooned village where enslaved people would escape to. And then here you see how rooted in the landscape are memories that kind of convey or house maybe past traumas or past memories in a very real, intangible and tangible way. And this is really the crux of what inspires my work. It's really an unorthodox way of knowing about history and identity. Yes.
That is some serious inspiration right there. Thank you very much for sharing that. Charisse, how does Caribbean visual art distinguish itself in the global art scene? And what role does CARIFESTA play in amplifying that, would you say?
I like this question exactly because I don't have an answer for it. And I think the fact that I don't have an answer for it is why CARIFESTA is important, because I attended my program for arts, my BFA, it's from a school that was in Paris but affiliated with an American school, very prominent. And in all of my art history courses focused on modern arts or contemporary art or history of art, and all of it was European and some North American. And I had zero reference to art in the Caribbean other than what I know for myself, right? Being a person in the Caribbean alive here now. And it's not vast and it's not something I am particularly proud of, but it's something that highlights an issue that we do have because we are artistic people and we do have art, like Lisandra just mentioned, in the Miss Ruby Butte. And we have Ras Mosera, and that's just on St. Martin, and we have a whole lot more, right? And it's very unfortunate that we do not have real grounding in what Caribbean art is and who are Caribbean artists. And what I mean when I say grounding, it's not for us as individuals, but really as a collective. And I think that's why CARIFESTA is so important, because it's highlighting what we do have as a collective. And it's really putting a stamp on it and displaying what we have, not just to the world, but to ourselves, which I think is the most important. And that's why I believe like things like CARIFESTA or events like CARIFESTA are so important for heritage, for culture, both the tradition from where we came from, but also for where we're going.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Zilla, what pieces will you showcase at CARIFESTA, and how do they reflect both tradition and contemporary fashion trends? Because in the first segment, you were definitely highlighting the clothing and wear that you have on right now and the type of expression. But give us some insight into what CARIFESTA can expect from you as it relates to that.
Okay. So this year, again, every year I try to launch 2 of my prints that I've created with my art. And this year, it's just like the other years. I am going to present a new print, but I'm also going to show pieces from my last 2 collections, because it could be that some of these Caribbean countries have never heard of me. They don't know what I've done before. So I want to make sure that they have a wide scope of my entire art or artistic expression. So my pieces are very, I would consider my pieces to be more classic, because they are very simple pieces, but the fabrics, the prints, that is what speaks to people. The vibrancy of it, the bright, bold, colorful colors that I use, color combinations. So that is what I would say will speak to the people of CARIFESTA. And on a whole, I am just really excited to be a part of this experience, to meet more of the other Caribbean countries and their excellence in art. I look forward to it.
I appreciate that response. This question, Charisse actually touched a little bit on it when I was about to ask, how do events like CARIFESTA open doors for collaboration and create opportunities for Caribbean creatives? And Charisse, you actually went there and indicated why this festival allows us as a people, as a region on this planet, to basically get our art, our way of expression. But I want to get each of your takes on that as to how everyone else within this group sees CARIFESTA as a door opener for collaboration, for creating opportunities as a region. So let me hear from you first, Lysandra.
At least in the Dutch Caribbean, I can't speak for everybody in the Caribbean, but at least we're in the Dutch Caribbean. When you go and you study abroad, often you have to be your own expert and researcher when it comes to your own history, your own identity, even in the region. So you kind of become the research institution at the same time as the artist. And I think that going to or being in CARIFESTA or as a visitor even or as a delegation or as an artist is really that window to um, expand that research practice, to network and to be a part of the dialogue to kind of contribute to that cultural continuity that we all share. And I think that is those are the most important aspects that you cannot get anywhere else on the planet.
Zilla, let me get your take on that as well. How do you see CARIFESTA opening doors for further collaboration and create opportunities for Caribbean creatives?
So for me, it is special. I touched a little bit on it earlier where I said we are getting the opportunity to now meet other Caribbean countries. For instance, the last years I have been mostly busy with the Dutch Caribbean islands and meeting creatives, connecting with them. And now it's going to be like the British Caribbean islands and the independent countries. So now meeting them, being able to collaborate with them in either business, production, creating collections together in collaboration. I find this is so exciting because I follow a lot of these creatives online. So being in the same space with them, sharing the same space is something that I'm really looking forward to, getting those contacts and being able to create something together in the future. Definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Thank you. And Charisse, let me get your take on that question as well. As I said, I know you've already kind of hinted towards that based on the question I asked you previously. But how do you further see this being an opportunity to join with other creatives and, of course, expand the Caribbean arts and message throughout our world?
Well, just like my two other colleagues said, an opportunity to network, but also I feel like as an artist sometimes, or just as an individual, you're like in your own world, in your own story, in your own like what you're creating. And what happens when you go outside of your own world and you bump against other people, you start to see like your world is not that separate. And usually we kind of feel like, oh gosh, it's only me, or the things that you're dealing with are only you, even as an artist. And so what's nice is when you meet with others, you not only hear how they've circumvented or pathways they've created, but you also get and gain a new insight and perspective, even on your own art, your themes, and what you're creating. And I think that's what I'm most looking forward to, because I probably might find someone that's doing something that's similar that I would never have met. And I think that's exciting because it helps you to grow as an artist as well. And definitely, of course, always having people to bounce ideas off of or to talk to is so important for you in your own growth, and also for someone else who can just witness you and encourage you. So I'm very much looking forward to that collaborative networking aspect and just being in an artistic environment. I don't like as artists, I think we all know because we've been in artistic environments before, so we understand what the feeling is, and it's almost an energy that you cannot really relate. It's like when you're in it, it's just like you feel alive. You come away and you're like, whoa, I have so much new ideas. I want to go and create this. I want to go and do that. And so I'm looking forward to that because I haven't had it in that way on that level for a long time.
Actually, we're actually running out of time, and I really want to be able to get this last question in, which allows each of you to basically give to our listening and viewing audience some insight into that one message or feeling you hope audiences in Barbados would be able to take away from your work during CARIFESTA. Lisandro, I want you to chime in on that first.
Well, I want to start by saying that um, being at CARIFESTA, I think, will be one of the few moments in my career, which is actually quite sad, where there's an audience that is present who I'm making the work for in mass. Because usually you have people that are here and there within North American and European context. And here, this is like the first time where everybody, at least I would expect in the public, is the intended audience for my work. So I'm really, really hoping that my magic realist perspective on identity and history is really contributing to personal stories that people are relating to, and kind of like getting people to ask certain questions that they might not have asked themselves before.
Zilla?
I'm hoping that people experience the hospitality, friendliness, and vibrancy of our people when they meet us at CARIFESTA. I feel over the years, some of our identity has been lost, but we are coming back to it, where people understand and know what our identity is, who we are as a people. We are friendly, we are loving, we are for each other, we are vibrant, we are creative. This is who we are as St. Martiners, and that is what I hope they experience when they meet each and every one of us.
And Charisse, can you wrap that up for us?
Yeah, Clara always mentions Sankofa, which is the looking back and going back to go forward. And I believe that all of us through our art in some aspect represent that, where we're looking back to the past, our ancestry, our traditions, who we are, what we are, and then continuing to weave that through the story of us and our people and our culture and our heritage, and then pushing it forward. And I believe like that is what all of us will convey. And that's what I hope to convey through whatever I present at CARIFESTA, this looking back to go forward, for people to remember who they are, where they came from, and where they want to go.
Lisandro, Charisse, Zyla, thank you for sharing your vision and artistry with us today with the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport by way of the Department of Culture coordinating St. Martin's Cultural Showcase. We look forward to seeing each of you shine at CARIFESTA 2025 and proudly share our island's creativity with the region. And to our radio listeners, television viewers, thank you for tuning in and being a part of my conversation with these three dynamic local artists of St. Martin. If you've missed it, be sure to catch a video on demand at the Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, facebook.com/SXMGOV. Of course, we invite you to subscribe to the YouTube channel of the Government of St. Martin at youtube.com at Government of St. Martin. And for audio playback, be sure to tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, our culture, our heritage, for playback throughout the course of the day. On behalf of my colleagues at the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport, and all of us at the Department of Communication, I'm Cedric Peterson. Thank you so much for tuning in.